It's all too easy to fall into the trap of assuming that the Bible conforms to our contemporary views, even as we tend to state it the other way around, that we're conforming to the Bible. This is actually quite marvelously an assumption that spans, I think, the entire spectrum of belief. Conservatives and liberals alike see the Bible as a justification, a legitimation of their positions. And thus it's all too often the case that when the Bible is taught in confessional settings, what's taught are those passages that reinforce the community's values. Or what's taught are ways to interpret the text so that it doesn't speak against the community's values. But in this, the interpretive community is obscuring the particularity, the novelty even, of its own positions. And so when I teach the Bible, I want to make sure that the students aren't hearing a watered down or glossed over text. I want them to know, for instance, that every time they see the word servant in their English translations of their Bibles, it's actually the word and idea slave. And that's an example of a watering down that probably almost no one's even aware of anymore, because we're 500 years on from when it first happened. I want my students to know that God tells Israel that they can own slaves and treat them harshly, because that's a text that probably isn't getting read much in their church settings. I am pretty sure that one's not in the lectionary cycle. What they hear, what we were all taught, is that the Exodus story is a story of freedom, the ultimate anti-slavery statement, an indication of God's and the Bible's fundamental stance in favor of the oppressed. But that isn't the Bible. That's a reading of it that has carefully excised the many laws about owning and treating and mistreating slaves. Laws that follow on the exodus from Egypt, laws that are given to the very people who've just escaped from their own enslavement. If the Bible is taken as an easy affirmation of our own principles and beliefs, there's a pretty good chance we're doing something wrong, either in our principles and our beliefs, or in our reading of the Bible. And so when people, clergy or politicians, I guess especially politicians, when people hold up the Bible as the justification for what they are promoting, be it a faith position or a policy, if there's even a distinction really between faith positions and policies anymore, when they hold up the Bible, it's not really the text of the Bible that's important. It's the Bible as a symbol, as a prop, as a weapon. I can picture Trump holding it as well as you can. And I should say, though, this is true of both conservatives and liberals. We believe or do this because the Bible teaches us whatever. My students, I hope, will know better. Or at the very least, they'll know what they're doing when they do that. Because although this sort of use of the Bible isn't terrific in its own right, what makes it really problematic is when it's done without self-awareness. Use the Bible if you must, I tell my students, but at least know that you're using it, that you're manipulating it, that what you're saying about it says more about you than it does about the Bible itself. Now, just about everything I've said about historical criticism, about distance from the text, about the gap between our values and those of the ancient world that produced the Bible, just about all of it comes down to the basic recognition that when we read the text, we do so through the lens of our own background, our own culture, our own faith traditions, our own reading community. None of us is reading the text plainly, as it were. There is no universal meaning. There is no single objective truth to be found here. If I can teach my students nothing else, I want them to walk away from my class knowing that whatever they may make of the Bible, they're the ones doing the making.